Aloha, my friends, and welcome if you're new to the Lava channel. I hope everybody's doing well in this crazy world, and thank you for finding your way here. Appreciate that. Today, I want to talk about the BRICS. There is quite a bit going on and a few things that are going to be moving forward. This ties into CBDCs and also some of the payment systems, the sanctions that have been happening in the war. So sit back and relax. We've got quite a few things to go through. If you have any comments, please leave them below. I'd love to hear them on this. So let's get right into it. We're talking about the BRICS expansion. Now, this article is older. And for those of you that are new to this or don't know what this is, BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Now, this was a group that was started in the early 2000s. It was actually initially started by Jim O'Neill, who used to be head at Goldman Sachs. So these five nations, they had originally started this so that they could do some trade. It was for economic concerns originally. At least that's what they said. So after this began just back this past year or so, talking about the additions in the Russian state media that Iran and Argentina filed their official applications to join, as well as Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt. This is huge. So they're becoming a definite influence. They were originally emerging economies, and now they're kind of like taking over this huge thing. So aside from them, more currently, this is a list of the countries that want to join this alliance. And if you look at this list, it's an eye-opener. And most people in the Western side, the U.S. particularly, are unaware that this is going on. So if you're here and you're watching this, you're on the cutting edge, I'm telling you. Not so many people are even, they're kind of pushing this off, especially mainstream media. They don't want anybody to understand what is going on here. So with that, we've got this list. Algeria, Argentina, they just are having some issues. So a lot of these countries also starting because they're feeling the issues of the U.S. hiking their interest rates, printing all their money, and exporting their inflation, because that's really all the U.S. makes. So we go through this list. Bahrain, Egypt is a huge one. Iran, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Mexico. That's where a good portion of our produce comes through and food. Nicaragua, Nigeria, Pakistan, Senegal, Sudan, who's also got quite a bit of conflict going on. There's more to that, but more than I can cover in this video here. Thailand, Tunisia, Turkey, who just went through some serious reevaluation with their currency as well, Uruguay, Venezuela, and Zimbabwe. So, as you know, Zimbabwe just had severe hyperinflation as well as Venezuela. So I went through this in another video, as well as Lebanon is now. So these countries are looking to de-dollarize. They want to get off of the US dollar system. And so they're doing what this is doing. They're creating this trade group outside. So it's going to be huge. This article talking about them being a new world order, well, that's kind of subjective. But what they do is they are offering an alternative to what used to be the petrodollar that was started in the 70s for this trade. But now what we've got going on here, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, positioning themselves to provide an alternate model to the G7. The G7 consists of Germany, France, the UK, Italy, Japan, Canada, and the US, as well as the EU. This plays in, more importantly, in a little bit. So what they were doing is challenging the World Bank model or the International Monetary Fund. So back in 2008, everybody had to kind of go crawling to the IMF and asking for loans, taking these loans on their terms. Now, 2014, they started this with $50 billion, roughly 46 billion euro in seed money that they could use to borrow for developing within their economy, and they're called the New Development Bank. So the New Development Bank is outside of the IMF, basically a new central bank, if you would. So we talk about how everything is measured basically with the GDP, gross domestic product, what a country is actually producing, and then they get their trade agreements, and that's how they make their money. So we're talking about now that BRICS is overtaking the G7 in terms of GDP. They're just figuring this out. And this is before the addition of these other countries. So let's see, this goes through talking about the growth rates, and I believe it has a chart. Actually, one of the things that I had brought up is that India has just surpassed China as far as production and output. They are becoming an economic powerhouse. So still, yes, smaller in comparison. However, they are really, especially teamed up with all of these, quite a bit more. They have also put out plans for a fiber optic submarine cable so that they could communicate outside of the U.S. listening in or spy system. So they want to have secure telecommunications between the BRICS countries. So they had plans. Has not been built yet as far as what they're saying, but they have plans for this. So on the back of this, something else that I find that is much more interesting in the latest developments is that France took a trip to China recently and was discussing with Xi Jinping the de-dollarization and some trade. And so Ursula von der Leyen, who is the chief of the chief basically of the EU, she went with him. And she was not formally invited, so she kind of piggybacked on with Macron. And she's kind of the bad guy. She's not well liked there. And so there was something that when they were accepted there, Macron was given the full red carpet treatment. And Ursula, at the same time, she has told Xi Jinping that he is not to attack Taiwan, and he kind of dismissed her. So she was forced to take the regular entrance, if you will, while he got the red carpet. And there's something very subtle. There's a lot of symbolism in the Far East. So while Macron was met by the chief Chinese foreign minister Qi Gang, when Ursula arrived in Beijing later the same day, she was met with the ecology minister, much lower down the totem pole, kind of like sending a tour guide for her almost. So they really dismissed her, kind of like, oh, you can go sit in the corner while us adults talk, and when we're ready, we're going to include you. So a lot of this, Xi Jinping is not interested in the EU as a bloc. Part of this article goes through that, but what he's doing is peeling out one country at a time. And so Macron was furious because just earlier, the German Chancellor Scholz had visited prior to him. And what Scholz did was took a lot of the heads of CEOs of the larger industries in Germany, trying to push their economic agenda. They are all clamoring now for their business to get into this BRICS nations. So let's see, Scholz, there was a list here that he took, like Volkswagen, Siemens, Deutsche Bank, and BASF. So Macron, when he went, included Airbus, Alstom, and a nuclear giant EDF, because he also wants to sign nuclear business deals. And then what they say, of course, in the packaging is that, we're going to speak with Xi Jinping to tell him not to back Russia in this Ukraine war. And that's the cover story, if you will. So anyway, I want to know what you guys think of this. I want to know what everyone thinks of this. Please leave a comment about this if you would, if you've got thoughts on what it is. And if you like any of this content, please leave me a thumbs up. Very important. So back to this, Macron is talking more about de-dollarization because he wants to become one of the main economic traders, if you would, with Xi Jinping, China, Russia, so that France can become the second largest economy, which is not realistic and it's not going to happen, but it just kind of shows where his thinking is coming from. So, yeah, O'Neill, who had started the BRICS, was former UK Treasury Ministry and British economist. So he was the one that initially started this, and you can see where BRICS is covering now, these green areas, and the population is roughly 41.6 of the world total and just under 20% of the GDP in total. So this is up and coming. And this is the other development now, especially that they are bringing in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, the UAE. They're talking about trading in the PetroYuan because China already has CBDC. So this will be very, very interesting. Anyway, I'm out of here for now. I'll have some more videos for you. I hope you liked this one. If you have any comments, ideas, or thoughts on this, please leave them below. I appreciate you all being here so much. Thank you kindly. And until next time, ahui ho.